This video is about Anton Piller orders. It will explain what an Anton Piller order is, why they are important for intellectual property cases, and what the requirements are to grant one. This is Jen. Jen made an online video game. One day, Jim played Jen's game. He liked it so much that he copied it from Jen's computer and sold it for a lot cheaper than Jen's game. Jen found out about Jim's game when less people were buying and playing her game. She wanted to stop Jim from doing this. She had to prove to the court that Jim had copied her, so she kindly asked Jim to give her his fake copy of her game and records of how many he had sold. Jim didn't want to get into trouble, so he destroyed all evidence of the game and denied he had done it. Jen couldn't prove that Jim had copied her game, so Jim kept selling his fake copies. Nobody would buy Jen's expensive game, so she went bankrupt. What Jen didn't know was that she could have asked the court for an Anton Piller order, which is kind of like a search order. It orders the defendant to let the plaintiff enter their premises in order to take evidence that will help them prove that the defendant breached intellectual property rights. But it's not the same thing as a search warrant. If it were like a search warrant, the plaintiff could forcibly enter the defendant's premises. But with an Anton Piller order, the defendant can refuse to let the plaintiff enter. But if they do refuse entry, they might be held in contempt of court. The application is filed ex parte, which means the plaintiff files the application without the defendant knowing or being involved in the process. This prevents the defendant from destroying any evidence that might be important for the plaintiff's case. There are 3 requirements that need to be fulfilled before an Anton Piller order is granted. These requirements were set out in Anton Piller KG and Manufacturing Processes Limited. The first requirement is that there is a strong prima facie case. A strong case can be established by the use of affidavits from those involved in the breach, for example, people who have bought the counterfeit game. The second requirement is that the potential or actual damage for the plaintiff will be very serious. The first part of the third requirement is that the defendants have in their possession incriminating evidence. And the second part of the requirement is that there is a reasonable possibility that the defendants may destroy the evidence before an inter partes application can be made. An inter partes application involves both parties instead of just the plaintiff. Here are some examples of when Anton Piller orders have been granted. In Aristocrat Technologies Australia and Global Gaming Supplies, an Anton Piller order was granted when the respondents infringed copyright by copying the plaintiff's gaming software. This is similar to what happened to Jen. Jim made a counterfeit game that infringed copyright. The Federal Court of Australia granted an Anton Piller order when an employee copied confidential information from the employer before commencing employment with a competitor. In a separate but similar case, the court granted an Anton Piller order when it was found that an employee downloaded confidential client databases. Because of its intrusive nature, Anton Piller orders should only be granted in extreme cases where it is necessary for justice to be done, and where there is danger that the defendant would destroy the evidence if they knew beforehand, and finally when the order will do no real harm to the defendant. An Anton Piller order is likely to be granted where fraud, dishonesty, or contumacy is involved, or where the defendant's business is of a transitory nature because it indicates that there is a real danger of the evidence being destroyed. So the main things to remember are the 3 requirements that need to be fulfilled before an Anton Piller order is granted, and that an Anton Piller order enables the plaintiff to gather evidence of infringement of intellectual property rights where the defendant might otherwise destroy that evidence.